It's not any better. Let's see where we get our straight.
Good evening. We will call the Burlington City Council May 7th, 2013 meeting to order. Thank you, Mr. Owen, as well. That brings us to public comment period. And we have several. Mr. Leon Morton, if you would state your name and address where you live, sir.
Leon Morton. I live at 5721 Church Road in Graham, North Carolina. I'd like to revisit the issue before. I want to compliment you on the pleasant and professional meeting I attended last, I have to say. Why should I be surprised? But it was a pleasant experience. The issue I'd like to address is the ongoing spraying of so-called biosolids in several counties, including Alamance, where I live, that originate in Burlington. Okay, now something that must be done with this byproduct, but really that's no issue at all. I'm talking about spraying close to schools, and aerosols are produced. Now, when I was born in 1947, there were probably less than 2,000 commercially significant synthetic chemicals produced in the world that might or might not be toxic. Subsequently, we have some famous examples of ones that were discovered to be quite toxic and discontinued. There were less than 600 that were produced in large quantities worldwide. There were less than 100 that could be found in the environment. If you go out in the ocean, the Arctic, the wilderness, animals, and so on, you'd have a hard time finding any of those chemicals in the world back in 1947. Okay? Now take a child born today, take those numbers, multiply by 1,000, because there's been such a increase in the variety of chemicals and the quantity of chemicals produced in the world. So in my first 15 years, I was subjected to certain exposures to certain chemicals. A child born today, in his first 15 years, he will have the opportunity to be exposed to 10,000 times as much in terms of variety and quantity of chemicals. And we're also discovering that some chemicals are very dangerous at very low concentrations. They act not as reactants like arsenic does. It takes a certain amount of arsenic to kill you. Other chemicals, when they enter your body, you receive no more, and they can continue to harm you at a greater rate because they change the way your body deals with toxins. In any case, this is a new day. That people were a little reckless when they introduced DDT and so on. It's sort of understandable because we didn't have the load of chemicals we now do. We need a level of caution and precision about how we protect children. The North Carolina Legislature is considering an act called let's find the front page. It's called the NC Toxic Free Kids Act. This is just in committee now, but if it's passed, one of the things it will do is create a list of priority chemicals, and it will endeavor to separate children from this list of chemicals. Some of the candidates are phthalates and bisphenol and various things. It'll be interesting to see if we have a similar situation to, you can't have a stricter rule on a state level than federal. That, to me, sounds that kind of undoes the point of having different governments in different states who can hopefully do better than other states. But in any case, my degree is in chemistry education. And I am not qualified or have the credentials to be the person who would decide if what Burlington is doing now is safe or not. I assume that all of you are similarly situated, that you don't have the credentials or reputation or professional qualifications to be the one who decides this issue. Whenever I ask anyone, they tell me it's safe because someone told them. So my question, and I'll wind up here, is I'd like for somebody to tell me who told them. In other words, what person or agency actually will stand up and say, this is safe, it's my qualified opinion, I'm the person who can say this, I'm not telling you this other person's opinion. I realize you don't answer questions tonight, but if you'd publicly supply the information as to who we're actually relying upon and what their credentials are and their track record so that we can all feel safe about our young people in LMS County as compared to the alternative of carrying the waste spraying further away from our schools.
Thank you, Mr. Morton. Next, Becky Monk. Welcome. Just as a reminder, as Ms. Monk's coming forward, we allow 5 minutes for public comment period. So just for your information. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm here tonight to just ask for some common sense. We shouldn't be spraying sludge around elementary schools. We don't know 100% that it's safe. I have a grandson that's going to be attending one of these elementary schools in a couple of years, and I want to be sure that he is not exposed to any vapors in the air that may cause him to have chronic breathing problems. It will affect his learning. He's a future citizen and taxpayer, and surely there is some way that we can put a 1-year buffer in place and put the sludge somewhere else except right next to our elementary schools. I understand this conversation's been going on for 5 years. That's ridiculous. So please, you guys have the power, so please use it and make the right choice. Thank you.
Next would be Myra Dotson. Welcome, Ms. Dotson.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Myra Dotson. I live at 8418 Orange Grove Road in Chapel Hill. I address the Chapel Hill, but it's Orange County, rural Orange County. I don't live too far from fields being sprayed with Burlington sludge, so I feel like I can come and speak here. I am chair of a group called Sewage Sludge Action Network, and we're a tri-county group. We represent Alamance, Orange, and Chatham, and our mission is public awareness of the impact and danger of toxic sewage sludge. The sludge industry is quick to say no one has ever died because of sludge. This is not true. Daniel J. Pennick, 17 years old, Pennsylvania. Tony Behan, 11 years old, Pennsylvania. Shane Connors, 26 years old, New Hampshire. Ashton Lowe, 12 years old, Florida. Alexa Brown, 11 years old, Ohio. Tell that to the parents of these children who died of exposure to toxic sewage sludge. These children were exposed to Class B sludge. Class B is what is spread close to the 3 Alamance schools. I've been an Orange County resident since 1972. I have lived around toxic sewage sludge since the mid-'80s. I've seen what it can do. I've experienced its effect on health, animal life, the air, and the water. No one in my neighborhood drinks the water because it's all toxic in their wells. Our creek, we had a beautiful creek. It's putrid and supports no aquatic life. And by the way, it runs directly into the Haw River. I personally have suffered severe illnesses, multiple and repeated cases of serious pneumonia, chronic bronchitis, and sporadic bouts of asthma, chronic sinusitis, and dermal MRSA infections. Here are some of the simple facts about toxic sludge. If a tanker truck of sludge flips over and spills the load, a hazmat team is required to clean it up. But if the tanker truck does not flip over, the sludge is spread on farmland and then is called fertilizer. Is sludge fertilizer? No, it's not. Fertilizer should not contain toxins or heavy metals. It would be wonderful if the wonderful fertilizer was so great, the industry would give it away. Wouldn't have to give it away. They would sell it. They would be able to sell it. Even the EPA agrees that sewage sludge is a toxic pollutant that can kill. When I saw that Centigrade was spreading Burlington's toxic sewage sludge across the street from Sylvan School, I was horrified because it had not occurred to any of my group that anything like this could ever happen. I was horrified, and how could this be happening? The sludge was shooting up in the air for the wind to pick up and carry farther, closer to the school. Could spread onto the children's play equipment, the people who work there, their automobiles, the doorknobs of the school. It could go into the school itself, much less the well water that Sylvan had. I took photographs that day, and I used the photograph on our brochure. This is it, with the sludge being spread up into the air. After that day, I received several phone calls with reports of Sylvan School children with serious illnesses. And since then, I've learned that Alamance had the most number of schools that were in the harm's way of sewage sludge, and the absentee rate is highest at Sylvan School. So, in conclusion, Sewage Sludge Action Network respectfully requests that Burlington ceases spreading of toxic sewage sludge within a 1.5 mile radius of all schools. In addition, we ask Burlington to refrain from using compost containing sewage sludge on all school campuses in the county, on ball fields, playgrounds, for the sake of the health and safety of the children of Alamance. Thank you.
Next person, Alex French. Welcome, Mr. French. Good to see you again.
See you, Mayor Wall. Mayor Wall, members of Burlington City Council, my name is Alex French. I'm a retired teacher from the Alamance Burlington School System. I had the privilege, and I do mean privilege, of teaching at Sylvan Elementary School for the last 17 years of my career. I'm requesting that the City of Burlington stop the spraying of human industrial waste sludge near Sylvan and other schools in the county. Sylvan does have the highest absentee rate of any school in the system. This was true a few years ago when I was teaching there, and it's still true. And there's the odor. I can firsthand testify that the odor is quite bad. You don't want to take your children outside. Unfortunately, in that facility, children have to go between buildings to go to the cafeteria and other classrooms. They literally have to leave one building and go through an open space to the other. They're exposed to this. There is no way around it. They smell this. They're exposed to this. I had an opportunity in the last few weeks to talk with a farmer in Snow Camp and also a gentleman who works in a waste treatment facility in a municipality about 40 miles from here. They both have indicated that long-term spraying is not good for the land. But again, I go back to the children. I hope a decision will be made to stop this for our children.
Mr. French, if you would restate your address, please.
403 Ashley Woods Drive, Gibsonville.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next is Lauren Clapp.
Hi, Hi, I'm Lauren Clapp. I live at 905 East Haggard Avenue in Elon. Mayor Wall and Councilman, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm shifting gears a little bit, and I wanted to talk to you some about public transportation in Alamance County. And now, I know that this is an issue that you all have heard a lot about recently. Particularly, I think that you've heard a lot about how low-income members of our community, people who don't have driver's license, the elderly, all need public transportation so they can get to their doctor's appointments and places like that that they need to go to. But I just wanted to add another perspective to why Alamance County needs public transportation. And so I am a student at Elon University, and I am not originally from Alamance County. I'm originally from just outside of Boston. And some of my fondest memories growing up are riding the train with my parents into the city, taking train rides for school field trips, or even my senior prom, we took trains into Boston for our prom. And so as I prepare to graduate in a horrifyingly short amount of time, 2.5 weeks, I have been thinking some about where I'm going to be after May 25th, and I am not planning on continuing to live in Burlington. I've really come to love Burlington and Alamance County in North Carolina in my 4 years here, and there are a lot of factors that have contributed to my choosing not to stay. I can honestly say, however, that a large portion of my decision is based on the fact that Burlington doesn't have a public transportation system. Even though I have my own car, getting around in Burlington and the surrounding community is often challenging and inconvenient. I worry about my environmental impact as a result of driving as much as I've had to while I've lived in Burlington. Gas is expensive. I'd much rather live somewhere that I could pay a fare and take a bus or a train to my destination. Also, how nice would it be to never have to worry about traffic during your morning commute? And so I was fortunate enough to attend your retreat a couple weeks ago where public transportation was on the agenda, and so I know that this is something that you all are thinking about and that plans are in place, and I think that a lot of people are hoping, and myself included, that in the coming weeks and months that you vote on this and vote to move forward with whatever next steps there may be. Thanks.
Thank you. Congratulations on your graduation.
Thank you.
Next is Ann Kassabaum.
Mayor, Ann Kassabaum said she apologized. She had to leave for another meeting. I apologize for her.
Okay, thank you. Next on the list, Susan Wofford.
My name is Susan Wofford, and I'm a concerned citizen of Alamance County. I live at 7144 Virginia Lamb Drive in Graham, North Carolina, which is technically Saxbahaw. I have 2 children. One is in 5th grade at Beaver Jordan, and the other one is in 8th grade at Hawbridge Charter School. And I know that Beaver Jordan has come up a lot with this whole sewage sludge. I drive by that field every day, and Hawbridge is right down the street from Beaver Jordan, at least not even half a mile. Hawbridge recently had children complaining that the water was not tasting good, that it was tasting very metallic. So they went and got it tested. It came up with dichloromethane, which is very toxic. It's cancer-producing. So immediately they had to shut down the water supply, and the kids can no longer drink the water. Now, I also heard that there's a stream that goes into the Haw River. I've had concerns about that as well. The kids at Hawbridge actually participate in water activities on a daily basis. My concern is that these kids are getting exposed. Beaver Jordan is kind of like Sylvan. I'm a very involved parent, and I'm also in the healthcare system. I work at Alamance Hospital, so I work with babies, adults, geriatrics. I see all sorts of funky things. I actually moved here from Los Angeles 7 years ago. I was thrilled. North Carolina is beautiful, but when I heard about the sewage sludge, I've also been around people that live near Beaver Jordan. One girl has gotten Guillain-Barré syndrome. Another lady's gotten spinal meningitis. And these are all weird, funky viruses that nobody can really pinpoint where they're coming from. My concern is that I do not want the kids at Beaver Jordan or Hawbridge to continue to be exposed to this stuff. It is very toxic, and I'm just begging you, please, to consider. I understand that this stuff has got to go somewhere. I've done a lot of research about this. because when I advocate for something, I want to know what I'm advocating for. So the sludge has to be put somewhere, but I'm just begging that it at least a mile or mile and a half from the schools, so that the runoff and everything doesn't go to the schools. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, Leslie Fields. Welcome, Ms. Fields.
Hi, Mayor and Councilman. I'm Leslie Fields, and I'm a concerned citizen of Alamance County. I live at 204 Aspen Avenue in Elon. My concern is for the children in the schools near the fields where the sewage sludge is being sprayed. After I really didn't understand this, so I did some research over the last few weeks, and I know there's been concerns at Hallbridge. That's where my son goes. He's 12 and a half years old in the 7th grade. So after doing some further research of exactly what the sewage sludge was, I realized what's in it, and I have some major concerns over the negative health effects of what some of the people are saying that the sewage sludge is having on the children and some of the adults near the facilities or the areas that are being sprayed. And just some of the things, abdominal bloating, jaundice, skin ulcers, MRSA infections, coughing, sneezing, sore throat, nausea, emphysema, arthritis, chronic bronchitis, pneumonia, asthma, environmental COPD, and sinusitis are the ones that were laid out for us. So I said my son is 12 and a half years old, and he attends Hallbridge, and he was born with asthma, and he actually got a lot better as he went through. He went to Highland Elementary, and then I noticed we actually were able to get him off of his inhalers completely. And I didn't really think about it that much. I thought it could be something at the house. But when he did start at Hallbridge, it got worse. And it may not be the sewage sludge. I don't know. But it does concern me. And the more I research this, as far as like the respiratory effects, my concern has gotten deeper. One other thing else I wanted to say is that, when this is shooting up upwardly of 50 feet in the air, it does go across, and Hallbridge is within 1 mile of the field that's being sprayed. Another thing I like to talk about is that, it has been proven, what I've read is that with sensitive marine life, it kills it. And there's a reference. What harm does it cause? In 2008, McElmurray Farm, Georgia, received an order from the Judge Anthony Alimano of the 11th Circuit's Court were confirming there had been decades of deceit by the EPA and fines against the USDA and EPA. The Alimano ruling acknowledges that the sewage waste applicants on the McElmurray farm were responsible for killing hundreds of dairy cattle. That's concerning. And he goes on to say in the last part of this is, in the ruling, Judge Alimano says, senior EPA officials took extraordinary steps to quash scientific dissent and any questioning of EPA's sewage waste program. So I do think that we do have something to look at, gentlemen, and I do please beg you, I know that this has to go somewhere, just like some of the others have said. It's an issue, but where to put it would not be near our children's schools and where there are residents there, and we are seeing issues from this. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Fields. Shannon Kirk. Shana, I'm sorry.
I'm just going to be real brief and say, I live at 2324 Sandy Lane in Mebane, and that's in Alamance County, southern Alamance. My son also goes to Hallbridge, and I just want to say that I agree and support everything that's already been said about the sewage sludge.
Thank you, ma'am. Next would be Tricia Moss.
Hi, my name is Tricia Ma. I live at 5732 Friendship Rock Creek Road, Snow Camp. And I thank you for your time and listening to me today. I'm going to keep my remarks brief as well. First of all, I want to say that you face a lot of really difficult decisions. We've heard a lot of those tonight, issues with taxes and infrastructure, issues about transportation in our city. This is not a complex issue. It's not. It's a very simple issue that just requires a common sense approach. I think the attendance record at Sylvan and the health issues that have already been spoken of tonight speak for themselves. This is definitely a problem, and I don't think that we need to delay on this anymore. I just ask that you would put the health of our children first, the health of our children and my neighbors and my neighbors' children, and that you would put their health first. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Next would be Suzanne Nelson. Ms. Nelson.
Sir, Suzanne Nelson's a farmer in Saxonham, and she called and said she might not be able to come. But did Fran Outhwaite from Burlington speak?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I don't have any children, but I live in Burlington. But I don't want this muck from these pigs or whatever it is sprayed near any children.
Excuse me for interrupting
no matter
you, ma'am.
who they are.
Could you just
into the mic. Oh, here we go. You mean I have to repeat it all?
State your name and address, please.
Name?
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Fran Outhwaite, Outhwaite. My address is 1700 Rosalind Drive, apartment 23B, Burlington. Anything else?
No, good, thank you.
Passport? Well, I'm here because I don't have any children, but that's meaningless. It just shouldn't be sprayed near anybody's children. I mean, what the hell, isn't there somewhere to spray it where you spray it up in the air so that it's not on these kids? They don't have any voice, so that's why I'm up here speaking for them. Okay?
Yes,
thank you.
That's
all I have to say.
Next, Mike Holland.
Oh, thank you. I have to follow that. You're a smart man. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for your time. I would like to note, earlier in the meeting, Celo Fawcett received an award for his new garden. Congratulations, sir. There's a great deal of fertilizer costs in keeping these gardens going. Our park system uses fertilizer. Our golf course, Tony Laws does a phenomenal job with our park system. These all have fixed costs for fertilizer. Downtown, the New Leaf Society is putting in 124 new boxes and are also working on the interstate to beautify and greenscape our community. Those all take fertilizer. Yet the fertilizer being used, organic fertilizer downtown, is purchased, but it is said that safe fertilizer, 24 million gallons a year, is being hauled exclusively outside the city limits, and none of it's sprayed in the city limits. As a matter of fact, the folks who were here earlier, the Birds, who got a zoning redistribution, and I'm glad that they did. Phenomenal people, great tractor company. Mr. Bird is part of a family that owns the land across from Sylvan and is sprayed. He has a great deal of money that's tied up in that, and I understand you're restructuring those contracts is made difficult by the fact that these people will lose money, possibly. But the man who rents for him is a NASCAR team owner, Dave Ridling. He lives in Salisbury. So he's not a cash-strapped farmer, and the landowner is an absentee landowner across from Sylvan. He stood here in this room representing that family, the Bird family, just a minute ago. The School Children's Health Act passed the North Carolina General Assembly and was signed into law by the governor this past July. It directs public school systems in North Carolina to use common sense, low-cost savings measures to reduce student and staff exposure to hazardous contaminants in the school buildings and on the school grounds, making North Carolina public schools safer, healthier places to learn and work. This is good. The North Carolina Department of Public Instruction will issue guidelines for these schools to implement the new law very soon. It's just common sense, stated Representative Greer Martin, Democrat from Wake, one of the bill's sponsors. You don't want toxic chemicals in school buildings that can harm kids' health and make it harder for them to learn. And I know you guys agree with that. And I thank you for your sensitivity. Ceres and our partner agencies, the Dogwood Alliance, Toxic Free North Carolina, Action for Children, Sewage Ledge Action Network, and Breedle, as well as the Haw River Assembly, who have a riverkeeper as their director, and the citizens of Alamance County demand that this council take the common sense steps of 1, abiding by Section 3.7 of your own contract with the sewage sprayer, which allows the city to choose which fields not to spray. It says that in there. 2, take advantage of the contracted sprayer's April 24th application for bankruptcy protection. They just went Chapter 11. They're about to be sold to a company in Sweden. And during this period of opportunity, please add and include a new clause which precludes spraying any sewage waste products near any school by Burlington contracted sprayers. This is a reasonable approach. Number 3 and final, develop a resolution, please, gentlemen, which will codify choosing fields for future spraying away from our school children. Makes sense. Ceres executive team received an email from the mayor on the 26th of April. The subject stated, please call me to discuss some strategies on this topic. And I was so glad to get that letter. And we would like to take you up on that. Ceres now asks the City Council to set aside time at your next work session and invite our executive team, several members of Burlington, respected members of Burlington, to meet and establish that resolution in number 3 above, so that at the next City Council meeting, we can see that resolution voted into being, hopefully, and the contract upgraded, and the agreement to honor the current contract section enacted. I think these are reasonable requests. I really appreciate your gentlemen taking your time to look at this, and I hope you'll bear with me while I ask everybody in this audience who has the same thought that this process should be moved away from our children to please stand up at this time. Is there no one else in this audience who would like to stand up and say, please move this process away from our children? About half the room. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. That brings us to City Council comments. Any comments from council?
When I looked up some people, Mayor, when I looked at Wendy Cash, Terry Moore, and fraternities and sororities from Elon University assisted us with this.
Yeah. It's a nice commercial tonight for you.
Yeah.
Any other comments from council?
Mayor, I have just reflecting on some of the remarks that have been made with respect to the spraying of the sludge. I went back after the meeting where we renewed the Centigrove contract and looked at that section 3.71, and it gives the city, I would say the discretion or authority, to recommend or ask the contractor to not spray certain places. I was concerned after that it'd be totally up to Centigrove, but now I guess the legal being of Centigrove, at least from what I understand from the newspaper account, the contract will not be affected, and then we can go by the contract we have now. I think I agree with what's been said, to the degree that I understand it, because I don't have the technical knowledge to understand it. But I do think it's a reasonable request, and I would ask that staff make a recommendation to this council about that matter, essentially in terms of not spraying around schools.
Councilman Ward, can I respond to that?
Thank you.
Yes,
Go ahead, Councilman.
Like I said, I think, if I understand it, there's been a request, and I think it's probably that's more involved than probably I understand, but, at least I think probably we should take a look at it, and staff says that, somebody said earlier, it's got to be somewhere. I understand that. But, I think the city has the discretion, based on my reading of the contract, to have some say as to where it will or will not be put. And I would ask, again, I'm repeating myself, that staff make some recommendation as to whether or not that we can stop spraying near the schools. That's simple. So.
Yeah. And I would also say, and I agree with you, but I also would say, in the meantime, while staff is investigating and looking into this, that we stop immediately spraying during the school day. I think it was in 2009, we did request that the city stop spraying on school days, if we could do that and then go back to what Mr. Ward said in reference to staff looking into the possibility, and I realize that we have some contractual obligations and legalities and all that, and I'm not a lawyer with that part of it, but I would say that we could stop that spraying on school days immediately. I don't think there's a problem with that at all. We control.
Mayor, if you need, if you want to make that in the form of a motion, or I'd be glad to, because I think it's an excellent idea, just to, stop the spraying until we get a staff recommendation around the schools. And if somebody will second it, at least we'll have some action tonight.
I don't know that we need a motion, but let me just add, I think first thing is let's get our arms around this. Let's take a look back at the contract that we have with Synagro, and then let's turn around and figure out where we are spraying now. Us eyeball that, and to the extent that we can back off from away from the schools to the 1 mile point that we keep hearing about, that's fine. But we need to understand what sort of impact that's going to have, one, on Synagro and the contract that we have with them, and number two is I suspect it will come at some cost to the taxpayers. But that's just something that we should know as we make any sort of change in our policy.
Well, like I said, I don't mean to interrupt you. There's no cost to anyone just to stop spraying.
That's fine.
For the time being during the school day. We can go back to 2009 and do that, and then we can have staff investigate. There's going to be pros and cons either way, I think, but at least for the time being, till we can get our hands around it, we stop spraying on school days and we go from there. So I agree with Mayor Pro Tem Huff, and I also agree with Councilmember Ward, but at least we can do without any vote or anything is just ask staff to stop spraying today.
I agree. I think that's a reasonable request to staff, and also like to get Mr. Bateman's opinion on the legalities of the contract, see where we stand with regards to that. And the last thing we want to do is create a stimulus that's going to cause this to be put somewhere else and create another problem.
Right.
So we need to be prudent in our efforts to take a look at this both from a legal standpoint and then a cause and effect relationship as to where they're going to go from there.
Sure.
So I think if we can get those two things before us, we can make a legitimate decision on how to proceed.
And I also would like to see the regularity of spraying monthly, weekly, semi-annually, just when the spray times are. If you do it once a month, is that when you do it?
Just bring that back.
It depends on the crop.
Okay.
Some fields are once a year, some are twice a year, some are once every other year.
Yeah, I'll have to see that come back to us.
Any other comments on that particular issue? Thank you, Councilmember Ward, for bringing that up. Any other? Thank you. First of all, welcome, Chief Smythe. Welcome to Burlington. Glad to have you with us, and first council meeting tonight. And also, I think Mr. Presley left, but Chandler, hopefully it's been a productive night for you. Hopefully you'll be back. Some dates of importance: May 9th, the Senior Gains Award Tea at the Senior Center. That's 2 o'clock. May 13th, obviously, the budget work session right here starting at 7 o'clock. May 14th, United Way Annual Luncheon. We're invited to that. May 14th, Employee Picnic, Battaways, 4:30 to 7. For the ones that can attend, May 15th, their graduation at Smith. May 20th, Senior Lunch at Forest Hills. And May 20th, the delegates from Korea will be here, right here in the chamber at 6 o'clock. Any other questions or comments for council members? If not, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.